What's up, everybody? How y'all doing, everybody? Hope y'all having an amazing Tuesday night. I know I'm gonna be 2 days late on this, but I must tell y'all this, man, again, because the University of Florida has fired Billy Napier, and it is something to remember because I remember when Billy Napier was hired. You know what I'm saying? When he was hired, I never thought that Billy Napier deserved the job. I understand that he was amazing in the Sun Belt, losing 2 games in 2 years, winning the Sun Belt championship, but as a head coach in the SEC, it's different, man, and it shows that it's different because this guy Billy Napier, he literally was a disaster in the SEC. He was a disaster for the University of Florida. How can you be 22 and 23 in your coaching career, only winning 48% in your coaching career at University of Florida? You went 12 and 16 versus the SEC, and you're 0 for 14 versus ranked opponents on away games. I repeat, 0 and 14 versus ranked opponents on away games. That's who you were, Billy Napier. Like when you look at him winning 48% of his games, that is the lowest for a full-time head coach since Raymond Wolf. Some of y'all is probably moving y'all eyeballs and moving y'all heads because you don't even know who Raymond Wolf is. Raymond Wolf was coaching the Florida Gators back in the 1940s, from 1946 to 1949. And when you could get compared to a guy like that, this is probably the worst coach in Florida Gators history. And Billy Napier is probably the second worst coach in Florida Gators history. This is sad for a sad time of Florida. We talking about Florida Gators that between 1996 and 2008, they won 3 national championships. They also won 8 SEC championships out of 17 years in that time span. So we're talking about a great program. You know what I'm saying? If I'm Billy Napier, I'm pissed off because every year I coach at Florida, I went to a bowl game. Dan Mullen first year at Florida, 10 and 3, 11 and 2, 8 and 4, 6 and 7. You know what I'm saying? So like Dan Mullen was the only coach outside of the first coach since Urban Meyer to make a bowl game every year. Urban Meyer and Dan Mullen was the coaches that do it. You know what I'm saying? Will Muschamp didn't make a bowl game every season. He had a 7-6 season, 11-2 season, a 4-8 season, and a 7-5 season. Jim McElwain didn't make a bowl game every year. He went 10-4, 9-4, 4-7. Dan Mullen was amazing for Florida. You know what I'm saying? And I think that he was going to continue to get better. I mean, this dude Dan Mullen had Mississippi State at #1 in the country. And I remember when Florida was getting rid of him, I was like, okay, Dan Mullen might need to go. But then I was like, who are they going to get to replace Dan Mullen, though? That was my question to myself, even before they even fired Dan Mullen. I felt that Dan Mullen was fired too quickly because he showed success at the University of Florida. Don't forget now, he played Alabama good and LSU good, the same LSU team in 2019 that won a national championship. That team was considered one of the greatest teams in football in college football history, and Dan Mullen had Florida Gators competing well with one of the greatest teams in college football history, and he gets fired 2 years later, or 3 years later. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying, bro. Like Dan Mullen could have stayed. You get Billy Napier, a guy in the Sun Belt, and goes to the SEC and wet the bed. He's not he's not eligible to coach the SEC. He should have been gone last year. Last year, you know what saved his job last year? DJ Ladway, the quarterback DJ Ladway saved Billy Napier's job because every game that DJ Ladway started last year, Florida won. The games that DJ Ladway did not start, Florida lost. That's the sad part of it. You let a sophomore quarterback save your career, bro. A sophomore quarterback, bro. And then when you look at this, bro, check this out. Your record this year is 3-4. The loss of South Florida is the one that really started moving the heads and turning heads because you cannot lose to South Florida. And then you lost to LSU, another rival. Miami, another rival, and you lost to A&M. Now I see the A&M loss. I can see that, but losing to LSU and South Florida, you should have won both of those games, brother. You should have won both of those games. And you cannot keep losing to Miami, your in-state rival, 2 years in a row. That's unacceptable to any Gator fan. So we already know that Napier's buyout is $21 million. So that's not as expensive as James Franklin buyout. I think James Franklin buyout is a little bit over $50 million. So that's an expensive buyout. And I think what's his name? Jimbo Fisher buyout was like $76 million. So that lets you know that Florida State, no, not Florida State, but Texas A&M was ready to get rid of Jimbo Fisher with that buyout. So when you look at Florida Gators, man, they have a lot to do. So, athletic director Scott Strickland, you got your contract extension, right? Now it's on you, buddy. The pressure is on Scott Strickland, if you ask me, because whoever you hire, it better be a damn good hire. Because when you look at the last four coaches, you had Will Muschamp, Dan Mullen, Billy Napier, and Jim McElwain. None of those coaches had the opportunity of coaching 50 games. Will Muschamp coached 49 games. Dan Mullen, 49 games. Billy Napier, 39 games. And Jim McElwain, 34 games. When you have Jim McElwain that had a better record than you did, that's sad. That's saying a lot. And I didn't even think Jim McElwain was a awesome coach at Florida. But that's sad that Jim McElwain was a better coach than you at Florida, Billy Napier. Um, so now let's talk about the coaches available. In my opinion, I feel that these coaches can be available. These coaches have been going around in the environment, in the atmosphere. I'm not so sure these coaches are going to lead the programs they're at to join, but I do feel that Florida will probably need a head coach. I don't think Florida will try to go out and get a coordinator, or offensive coordinator, or defensive coordinator anywhere. I think they need an experienced head coach because this is a top-notch program. It may not be a blue blood, you know what I'm saying? It may not be a blue blood like a Alabama or a Georgia, but you know what I'm saying? But this program is a top-notch program. So the coaches available is Lane Kiffin. I heard his name coming around. I heard the name Marcus Freeman. I heard the name James Franklin. I heard the name Rhett Lachey, the coach for SMU. I heard the coach named Jed Fish from Washington. I heard the name Alex Golesh, the coach from South Florida who beat Billy Napier, who's down the street in Tampa, Florida. I heard the name, and I like this name, Jeff Brom from Louisville. I really like Jeff Brom. Jeff Brom is one of those guys that has four top five wins as a coach. You know what I'm saying? And he's the underdog in all these wins. I heard the name Clark Lee, the coach for Vanderbilt. I heard Brent Key, the coach for Georgia Tech. When they let Scott Collins away, Jeff Collins, when they let him go from Georgia Tech, this guy Brent Key help elevate that program, Georgia Tech, to a top-notch program. Georgia Tech is in a top 15 team in the country right now, thanks to this guy. Eli Drinkwitz, the coach of Missouri. I heard his name, and I heard Dan Lanning from Oregon. So these are the coaches that are available for Florida to hire. Now, are these guys going to leave their program and join in Florida? I don't know. But I do know that these are the names that have been popping around in the Florida atmosphere. So but if you are going to be the coach for Florida, please keep DJ Ladway. Find a way to keep DJ Ladway. You can't let him transfer. You need him. You need to keep Jordan Baugh, you need to keep him. Miles Graham, you need to keep him. Vernell Brown, the third, keep him. And Caleb Banks. Caleb Banks was probably the top three defensive tackle going into next year's draft. He could have went last year, but for some reason, somebody talked him into staying again another year. So, Caleb Banks, Vernon Brown, Miles Graham, Jordan Baugh, and DJ Latway, those five players right there are the players that you need to maintain on your Florida roster if you're going to be the new head coach at the University of Florida. And this is, like I said, this is a top-notch program. I really believe that Florida can actually compete in the SEC if they have the right guy. The problem is you just got to get the right guy. You can't just go out there and have a coach in there for 4 years or less for this moment of time. So you look at from 2011 all the way to 2025 this year, every coach that coached Will Muschamp, Jim McElwain, Dan Mullen, and Billy Napier, they coached 4 years or less. The only coach that coached less than 4 years was Jim McElwain, because Will Muschamp coached 4, Jim McElwain 3, Dan Mullen 4, and Billy Napier 4, and all of them was fired. So you have to find a coach that you feel that's going to be good enough to maintain your program, elevate your program for more than 4 years. That's just my opinion, guys. So listen, if you are out there in the military, shout out to y'all. Thank y'all for defending our country. If you in the workforce, shout out to you for working hard, grinding every day. If you are in the school system, if you are a pilot, if you are a police officer, if you are a fireman, whatever you do, whatever profession you do, man, shout out to you for going hard every day in life, man, because your work is appreciative. I appreciate you, and I'm sure your family appreciates you and everything like that. But keep grinding. And by the way, man, if you hearing this video, please comment below on who you think Florida should hire as the new head coach. And please, please, please hit that follow button, because my stats are telling me that a lot of people watching these videos are not hitting that follow button. They're not. So please hit that follow button, guys. This is good content. I'm bringing you facts, man. This is stuff that you can research. And I hope y'all have a great Tuesday night. See y'all tomorrow. Peace.